Hello everyone, myself Dr. Susengfa Gogoi, again amongst you all with a new module. The title of this module is Egalitarianism, Meaning, Features and Types. So in this particular module, we would learn what is the meaning of egalitarianism, what are the features or characteristics of egalitarianism, and what are the different types of egalitarianism. So after listening to this module, we would mainly learn about these things. Before we move on to the details of this module, I hope you have gone through the previous two modules on equality, and I also hope that those modules were of little bit of help to you in learning or understanding the idea of equality from different perspectives. Those who did not gone through the previous modules, the link for those modules will be given in the description. Let us begin. First of all, we would like to discuss about what is the meaning of egalitarianism. Before we talk about the other important aspects of meaning of egalitarianism, it is very important to understand from where the term called egalitarianism developed. Etymologically, the term egalitarianism, it develops from a French word called égal, which means equal. So this particular word called égal, which means equal, it shows that the idea of egalitarianism is a political perspective whose main concern is to understand the equality among people, or how as a political ideology equality can be established in a society. That is what the concept of egalitarianism is all about in one way. The idea of egalitarianism, it tend to establish a society where there is no degree of difference and where everyone would get equality of outcomes. So this is very important. So as a concept, egalitarianism stands for that philosophical perspective which emphasizes on equality, which emphasizes on equal treatment. And while talking about equal treatment, it is not only giving importance to equality of opportunity, rather it gives more importance to equality of outcome. Now, what does we mean by equality of outcome? In the previous module, we have talked about how the idea of equality of opportunity has a connection with different types of equality. I told you that equality of opportunity stands for how people get equal opportunity to compete or to earn equal amount of benefits from the government in earning the provisions for improvement of their own livelihood. Here, equality of outcome by egalitarianism basically we give importance to how people get equal access to different kinds of outcomes, different kinds of policies, different kinds of programs adopted by the government. So that's why egalitarianism therefore is a political ideology which wants to establish equality among people, not only in terms of opportunities but also in terms of the outcome. Therefore, the core idea of egalitarianism is treating people as equal. Now, when you say that treating people as equal, what does it mean? So it also means there is a coherent inequality, there is a coherent degree of treatment or treating people as inequals in the society. That is what we call as non-egalitarian perspective. See, every society has different kinds of stratifications. They have got different kinds of positions in the society. We tend to stratify people based on color, based on race, based on gender, based on ethnicity. So we tend to categorize people as different categories of people. So that non-egalitarian perspective need to be eradicated. That when you want a society which is based on equality, where you want a society where every single individual would get equal representation, would get equal benefits, equal outcome, that is what the idea of egalitarianism is all about. So therefore, the idea of egalitarianism gives importance to treating every single people as equal in all aspects of life. Now when you say in all aspects of life, it means social, political, economic, religious, etc. Now in different walks of life, from social to political, from economic to religious, how we can give equal importance to people. So that is what egalitarianism is all about. So in this particular dimension or idea of egalitarianism, one of the important interpretation has been made by Karl Marx and his successors. So there is a Marxist interpretation of the terminology called egalitarianism. Now what does Marx or his successors talked about egalitarianism? Probably you remember that the idea of Karl Marx about society is to establish a classless, a stateless kind of a society. So in a stateless, classless kind of a society, Marx and his followers wanted to establish a society where every single individual lives in harmony, where every single individual would have equal access to production, equal access to the benefits of the production. So Marx and his followers wanted to establish an egalitarian society. So how they have talked about it? For example, Marx said that the human civilization was gone through into a certain stages of development. From a primitive communist society to an egalitarian society, which is also in the latter form has been known as socialist kind of a society. It has transformed into different phases of development. And in all phases of development, there was no egalitarian or equalitarian society achieved. There was dominance of one class over another. Therefore, Marx said that in every other forms of society, there is a class antagonism or there is a class struggle. So within that class struggle framework, the exploited class who are being always exploited by the superior class, who are also generally known as the bourgeois. The proletariat class always fight against these bourgeois. They always launch some kind of a struggle against the bourgeois. And what was the goal? The goal in this perspective is to establish a society where the proletariat would get equal amount of respect, equal amount of representation, equal amount of benefits within the society. So that society is called as egalitarian society according to Karl Marx and his successors. Now there is also another perspectives on egalitarianism developed by Rousseau. We know there are three social contextualists who were known for their contribution in understanding how the state emerged. They said that the state emerged due to a contract. And while talking about that contract, they said that before coming to creating a political institution called state, men were living in a state of nature. So in that state of nature, the situation of the state of nature and the human nature was different from one social contextualist to another. Here we would like to talk about mainly about Rousseau, because he was the only social contextualist who gives importance to a kind of a political arrangement, a kind of a political order where there would be no hierarchy maintained. And in a way, the government that is to be formed out of a contract made by the people is a popular kind of a sovereignty. So that popular sovereignty which is created by the people in a way is a general or mass consent of the people, and that general or mass consent has been known as general will. So general will basically mean that how people come into a understanding, into a contact among themselves, that they would surrender the entire power to themselves only. So there would be kind of a popular kind of a government they are talking about. So there's the first time he was talking about a egalitarian state perspective in a social contextualist tradition. Now, when we talk about egalitarianism, probably we have understood that the idea of egalitarianism, therefore, is a political ideology which is based on the principle of equal rights, which is based on the principle of equal benefits, equal opportunities, and also on equal treatment for all the citizens of a society. Here, in this connection, there are two broad perspectives on egalitarianism. These are called as instrumental and non-instrumental. Now, what is this instrumental and non-instrumental perspective on egalitarianism? The instrumental perspective on egalitarianism believes that egalitarianism is considered as a means to provide equality among people. And the non-instrumental perspective considers egalitarianism as the end and to achieve equality in the society. Now, what is this means and end? Let me explain a bit. Imagine a situation where there is a gross inequality among people. Let us imagine of a underdeveloped country like India, or an underdeveloped country like Bangladesh or Pakistan, where there has been a gross economic disparities among people. If we are egalitarian, what do we want in this kind of a scenario? We want to establish a society where there will be no class difference among people. There will be no poor, there will be no rich, where both poor and rich would get equal amount of benefits from the government. So that is what egalitarian want. So there are two ways to understand this instrumental and non-instrumental here in this particular example. If we adopt an instrumental perspective, then probably we will consider egalitarianism as a means to achieve that goal, to establish a classless, kind of a society in a third world country or in an underdeveloped country. Now, what is the means? Imagine the government has comes up with some kind of a reservation system to the economically weaker class. And this economically weaker class are those people who are always been economically subjugated, who belong to the below poverty line, who do not have access to the economic avenues of the government, who do not have control over the production of the government. So these are the methods. By giving reservation, by coming up with different kinds of policies, we are giving special attention to these people who are less economically equipped, or who are also to be considered as poor. So this is the means, that how you use egalitarianism as a means some kind of a method, ways by which we can develop egalitarianism. The non-instrumental perspective of egalitarianism is that you want to establish egalitarianism. So here it means that you do not see egalitarianism as a method but as the goal. So why do you want to establish or eradicate poverty or eradicate the class distinction in the third world country? Because you want to establish a classless, povertyless kind of society. So that is the goal. So therefore the idea of egalitarianism can be understood as both instrumental as well as non-instrumental perspective. So when we talk about egalitarianism, let us assume with an example, then probably we would understand better of why we need to talk about egalitarianism. Imagine there are two persons, or you can call it as two category of persons. Few people can be called as better off and some people are worst off. Now what is this better off and worst off? Better off are those people who are in conditions, are better in comparison to that of other categories of people. And worst off are those people who are less equipped with the access to economy or maybe social. Imagine there are two categories of people. Some are better off and some are worst off. Better off are those people who are in an advantageous position in the society, and worst off are those people who are the disadvantageous class. Imagine better off is having 150 points. Here 150 point can be considered as rupees, can be considered as calories, can be considered as property, whatever you just imagine. Just imagine that 150 is a particular point. So in a point value, better off is having 150. And the worst off is having 100 point. Now, what does egalitarianism means here? Egalitarianism will mean that if we give fair amount of or just amount of distribution of outcome to the worst off from the points of the better off without disturbing their conditions, there means the better off condition is called as egalitarianism. What does it mean? It means because what worst off are lagging behind the better off in terms of points, right? The worst off are lagging behind the better off in terms of points. So therefore you need to make an equilibrium. So what is egalitarianism? Egalitarianism is a process by which you can give more importance to this worst of class by asking or equally or fairly distribute little amount of points from better off to the worst off. So in this category probably the worst off would be into 120 and better off would also remain in 150, although they have surrendered certain benefits to the worst off. Let me give an example, probably then you could have understood it better. Imagine, let me give you an example of the poverty kind of a scenario that we are talking about. The rich are always rich because they have the control over the capital. The poor are poor because they do not have the control over the capital and they are also not getting the benefits of the capital. So if I am an egalitarian person, or if the government has adopting a egalitarian kind of a perspective, then what they will do, they will try to provide some special programs, attention to the worst off, so that the worst off can also live a healthy life. And how do the government would compensate the worst off? By giving it from the capital already accumulated by the better off. Maybe the government would comes up with some kind of a tax regime. It will apply different kinds of tax upon the better offs, so that the surplus money from the better offs could be used for the development of the worst off. So this is what egalitarianism is all about. Now, while talking about egalitarianism, if we take some definition, the things would be more clear. According to Cambridge Online Dictionary, I quote, egalitarianism believing that all people are equally important and should have the same rights and opportunities in life. I unquote. Now, if we look at into this definition, what does Cambridge Online Dictionary say? It said that the idea of egalitarianism, it believes all people as equally important. This is very, very important kind of a definition, because it said that egalitarianism is a basically concept which believes that every single individual are equally important, and because they are equally important, they should have similar rights and opportunities in life. So the things that we have discussed, that was very beautifully explained by this definition. Another definition was made by Gordon. He said, I quote, egalitarianism is the position that equality is central to justice. I unquote. So in this particular definition, he linked up the idea of egalitarianism with the idea of equality, connecting it with the concept of justice. So in this definition, if we try to understand what does Gordon try to say, he said that the idea of egalitarianism would be completely fruitless if we do not link up the idea of equality with justice. There is a connection between equality and justice. So what is justice? Justice is something to give what one deserves. Justice is a condition of eradicating the injustice that happens in the society. So that is only possible if there is equality in the society. So by assuring justice, you want to assure equality. So there is a link. And how it is possible? It is possible through a mechanism called egalitarianism. Lanzmann, he also made a definition. I quote, egalitarianism's ideal is a condition of equal well-being for all persons at the highest possible level of well-being. That is maximum equal well-being. I unquote. Now he connects the idea of egalitarianism with the concept of equal well-being. Now for him, equal well-being is also for whom? For all the persons. And to what level he was talking about? He said it is to the highest possible level of well-being. That means maximum equal well-being was aimed. So the idea of egalitarianism, therefore, to eradicate any sense of inequality that can be possibly exist in a society. Like Marx and the left-oriented political philosophers believe that unless and until we eradicate class, unless and until we eradicate the institution called state, who is also the representative of a superior class, we cannot talk about equality. So egalitarianism is therefore is a more, you can say that more radical form of equality, who believes on eradicating any forms of any senses of inequalities, and where you want to give a maximum amount of well-being to the sections of the people who are the worst off. Another definition has been made by Arneson. I quote, "An egalitarian is one who maintains that people ought to be treated as equals, as possessing equal fundamental worth and dignity, and as equally morally considerable." I unquote. So this definition, which was made by Arneson, was also very important to understand the idea of egalitarianism. So he said that who is an egalitarian? The egalitarian was a person who want to treat everyone as equal, and that equality was talked about in terms of dignity and equal moral considerable. That means that in terms of morality or in terms of dignity, when we consider every single individual as equal, when we treat every people as equal, that is what egalitarianism is all about. So he tried to develop a moral principle in understanding egalitarianism. So for him, egalitarianism is not purely materialistic, rather it is more moralist in conception, because it was talking about the well-being of the people, it was talking about the dignity of the people, so it was more moral rather than material. The next definition was made by Hirose. He said that, I quote, "Egalitarianism refers to a class of distributive principles which claims that individuals should have equal quantities of well-being or morally relevant factors that affect their lives." I unquote. Now, in this definition, Hirose had said same thing that has been already said by Gordon, or said by Lanzmann, Arneson. He has connected all the three dimensions that has been said separately by Gordon, Lanzmann, and Arneson, because Hirose, he has given importance to equal distribution. He was talking about well-being. He was talking about morally relevant factors that affect their lives. But while talking about well-being and moral perspectives of egalitarianism, he has connected the concept with the idea of distributive principle. Now, what is this distributive principle? Distributive principle basically mean that we should not accumulate the benefits of any production, whether it is social capital or economic capital or political capital, only in the hands of few. Rather, it has to be distributed among all sections of the society, so that every single individual would enjoy equal amount of benefits from the society. So these definitions had made us clear that the idea of egalitarianism, first of all, is a political philosophy which believes that every single individual is equal enough to live their life in a handy way or with dignity. Then we also understood that egalitarianism is a political system by which you want to establish a classless, stateless kind of a society where the equal amount of well-being is assured, where justice can be established, where people would live a life with dignity, with moral inspiration, and where there would be no degree of difference between two different classes or two different categories of people. So this is what egalitarianism is all about. Now, based on this discussion that we have made so far, we can draw certain characteristics of egalitarianism. Broadly, the characteristics are, number one, gender equality. Now, what does gender equality is all about? Now, the idea of gender equality is a very, very significant issue of egalitarianism, because in a patriarchy kind of a society, there is a big degree of gap between men and women. The women are always treated as a secondary kind of a sex, where they do not have the right or do not possess the equal amount of right to participate in the decision making process, both in the private sphere as well as in the public. So inside the house and also the outside the house, women were hardly been asked for participating in an equal manner or equal footing with the men. So therefore, egalitarianism is important, because it assures any kind of division created in the name of gender. So therefore, gender equality has been one of the major goals of egalitarianism, because it wants to establish a gender-free, society where every individual or every single gender would get equal amount of representation or participation. Second one is called help for less lucky. Now this is a very tricky kind of a concept that we need to understand here. Now egalitarianism connects the idea of benefits to the idea of luck. Now we would discuss in the later slides, but here to understand it more, I'm just giving you a brief idea of what is the connection between luck and the development, or luck and the benefits, or you can say outcome. Sometimes luck do play a very important role in determining the benefits that a person can acquire. Imagine two persons from a same family would have similar kind of equal economic benefits, might not be equally lucky to enjoy the rights of the property or enjoy the rights of the government. The government the right that has been provided by the government might not be enjoyed at the same level because both of them are not equally lucky. How do we say that? Imagine in a family there are two siblings. Maybe both of them are boys, or one boy or one girl. Because the other one is lucky and he also have merit, so he become a good doctor. Okay, so he become a good doctor because he has the merit, he has the skill to become a doctor, he became. The other one, he also has the merit, but he could not succeed to become a doctor because he did not crack the examination. Although he was of equal merit, but he did not crack because maybe he could not able to reach the examination hall on time because of his poor health condition. Maybe he could not complete his course, but although he was of equal merit, he could not able to succeed. So that is what luck is very important in understanding capitalizing benefits, or capitalizing or maximizing or utilizing the skills of one person or merit of one person. So what does egalitarianism stands here? So egalitarianism in this perspective is stood for helping the less lucky. That means to help those people who are worst off in conditions, not based on their merit, but because of their unintended luck they have. So those people who are little less lucky than the other one, egalitarianism stands for them. In this connection, probably we can talk about the poor, the fragile communities from the societies, maybe the socially disadvantaged classes, economically disadvantaged classes, and egalitarianism stood for those people. The third characteristic is the idea of egalitarianism is a moral ideal. Now, why do we consider the idea of egalitarianism is moral? We have already discussed in the previous slide. I told you the egalitarianism as a concept, it has a connection with morality because it talks about dignity and giving respect to the people. It talks about why do we need to respect the difference among the people. It always not that we have to give importance to the economically, socially, politically stronger class. We also need to give importance to the lives of those people who are living in a marginalized way, who are living in the marginalized section of the society, who do not enjoy the similar amount of equality with the superior classes or superior being, but their lives are also equally important. So the concept of well-being, concept of dignity are the concepts which are connected with the concept of morality. So therefore moral ideal is very important, that egalitarianism is a concept which is morally correct. So it wants to establish a moral and ideal society. The fourth characteristic is that egalitarianism also try to ensure meritocracy. It wants to establish meritocracy. Now what is this merit? Now the idea of merit, like we have already discussed in the previous point while talking about the connection between luck and benefits, I told you that every single individual has, if you consider them as equally meritorious, but they are not able to enjoy it because of their bad luck or because of their luck issues. So sometimes you need a certain framework by which the merit of the person can be utilized in a best way. Imagine in certain places, for example, we have good number of skilled people in India who are living in the interior places, in the remotest places of India, but we do not know that they have that skill unless and until they are being promoted. So egalitarianism therefore provides us an opportunity whereas we can give maximum amount of sanction to those marriages who are you can call it as undiscovered. So the undiscovered marriages need to be considered, and they need to be comes up to the mainstream. So how it is possible? It is possible through a egalitarian framework. So it basically means that you do not charge for merit only for a particular category of people. You should also give importance to the merits of the under recognized classes, and that merit can be possible only through a framework called egalitarianism. Then equality of opportunity. So equality of opportunity is also another very important characteristics of egalitarianism, because it believes that in a society, although there is a hierarchy, that hierarchy must not be the only condition to stratify people. So egalitarianism, therefore, it believes on giving equal opportunity to every classes of the society. They do not believe on giving only importance to the superior beings or superior categories of people, maybe from a class, from a gender, or from other social stratifications. It do not want to give importance to a particular specific group of people. Rather, it wants to give importance to all the sections of the society. So the opportunity that could have been given to the people without inclining towards the superior categories within that hierarchy is not the aim of egalitarianism. So it wants to give importance to the inferiors or inferior positions also. So that equal distribution of opportunity is very important, that you want to give equal opportunity to every categories of people. The next one is equality of outcome. Not only in terms of opportunity for development, in participating, in competing to the economic realm, to the political realm, outcome is also important. And this point has already been discussed in the beginning slide. I told you that the people should, in an egalitarian kind of a framework, every single individual would give equal importance to enjoy the outcome of the government. While talking about outcome of the government, we are talking about giving equal importance to the policies. For example, the policy that has been framed by the government, it has to be benefit not only a specific class but to all. So the outcome need to be distributed. It need to be given importance to all the people of the government, people of the country. So the material wealth, the income of the country, it has to be divided among the people. It has to be equally divided among the people. So that is only possible in a particular political ideology called as egalitarianism. Then come distributive justice. So distributive justice is another form of egalitarianism, or another important characteristics of egalitarianism, which addresses the life outcomes and the allocation of valuable things such as income, wealth, and other goods. So basically it means that how we can distribute the justice from a society. So it basically means that we want to disseminate the benefits of justice among the people. And here the idea of justice may not be only understood from a legal framework. We are talking about economic justice, we can talk about political justice, we are talking about social justice. So how people are getting the socio, political, economic, legal justice in a distributive manner, and that is only possible through a mechanism called egalitarianism. For example, we can talk about maybe the reservation of seats for women, reservation for STs, reservation for STs, coming up of different kinds of schemes for below poverty line people, certain examples of distributive justice where you want to give importance to the worst of communities. The last characteristics is that equality, justice, and fairness. Equality, justice, and fairness are regarded as the three pillars of egalitarianism. If you do not have equality in a society, if you do not have justice, if you cannot ensure fairness in the outcomes of the government or the state, you cannot assure egalitarianism. So only within an egalitarian kind of a framework, these three concepts can be ensured. So these are the characteristics of egalitarianism. Now we will talk about the types of egalitarianism. So broadly, there are lots of types. If you go through the links that I have given in the last part, the reading list, then you will see that there are other different forms of egalitarianism. Here I have taken certain important forms of egalitarianism. For example, moral egalitarianism, social egalitarianism, legal egalitarianism, luck egalitarianism, political egalitarianism, liberal egalitarianism, economic egalitarianism, religious egalitarianism, and gender egalitarianism. Let us talk about them very quickly, one after another. Now, let us first talk about what is moral egalitarianism. The idea of moral egalitarianism is a concept which believes that all individuals are entitled with equal respect. So respect is very important. That this is a kind of a egalitarianism, moral egalitarianism, which believe that every single individual deserve equal amount of respect, and all the human persons, they are equal in fundamental worth or moral status. That means, what does it mean? It means that all the lives are of equal worth. That you cannot say that the life of rich is more important, the life of poor is less important. That kind of things cannot be happen. For example, let us talk about the recent epidemic that is going on in and around the entire world. It's called coronavirus. So in this particular disease, we saw that different categories of people are got affected. So if the government started thinking that the life of the poor are less important for the country, so therefore the benefits of vaccinations, the benefits of treatment, medical help is only to be provided to the superior classes, the rich, the bourgeois, the kings, the ministers. So that is morally incorrect. So what is morally correct? That if the benefits of the medical services to be given to all the people, despite looking at their gender, their social categories, their economic profile, that is what moral egalitarianism is. It basically means that every single life of an individual is important, and that is what morally important, morally correct. That every life to be given respect. Every individual have the right to live in dignity. So this is what moral egalitarianism is. Social egalitarianism is that egalitarianism which believes that there cannot be a deeply hierarchical society. So it basically mean that although there is a hierarchy in a society, but that hierarchy must not discriminate people. In the name of economy, for example, the rich class must not exploit the poor class. From a gender perspective, the man should not discriminate women. From a race perspective, the white should not discriminate black. From a caste perspective, the Brahmin should not discriminate the Sudras and the Vaishyas. This kind of. So the social egalitarianism, therefore, it basically means that the hierarchy need to be loosened up. You cannot stick to a particular strict form of hierarchy, and that need to be break down. The next one is called legal egalitarianism. Legal egalitarianism is a principle which believe that each individual have equal worth under the same law. That means you cannot have separate law or legal provisions for different categories of people. For example, for the same crime, you have to give the equal amount of punishment. Just because somebody belong to the bureaucrat or somebody belong to the political background will escape the punishment that has to be given in the name of law, that cannot be possible. So legal egalitarianism basically mean that there will be equal amount of protection or equal amount of status to every individual under the law. Secondly, it also means that there cannot be a special privilege to any individual or group or class. So here, legal egalitarianism basically talks about giving equal importance to every class of or every category of people. This point has also been discussed in the previous module. When we talk about the legal equality, we talked about the rule of law and equality before law, and that provision is also linked up with the concept of legal egalitarianism, where every single individual is considered as equally important in front of the law and the legal provision of the country. The next one is very important, we need to understand, is called luck egalitarianism. So what is the connection between luck and benefits, or luck and outcome has already been discussed. So now things would be more understandable to us. Now the idea of luck egalitarianism, it is connected with the principles of equality, and it believes that some people are worse off than others, not due to their fault but due to their luck, and because they are worse off than others, they must not be discriminated from distributing the equality. What does it mean? It means that luck egalitarianism basically, it believes that there are some people who are worse off and some people are better off. The worse off people are worse off not because of their skills, of their merit. They are worse off because of their luck, and those luck are not in their hands. If you are unlucky, if we are to be considered as unlucky, it is not because of us. We do not have an option to it, right? It just happened. So because it just happened, which is not in your hand, you should not be debarred from getting the benefits of equality. For example, just because you are living in a patriarchal society and accidentally you become a female, or your gender has biologically become a female, you will not get the equal amount of treatment or equal amount of respect from the society. That cannot be possible. So therefore, luck egalitarianism believes that the wars of people need to be protected. Now, here, therefore, the idea of luck egalitarianism has a connection with the concept of distributive justice. Now, what is distributive justice? Distributive justice basically means what is just or what is right with respect to the allocation of goods in a society. And it basically means that you want to distribute the benefits of the society. You want to allocate the goods of the society to the people in a very just way. In a just way means to providing it legally, which is acceptable to everyone. The one that is deserved by a person need to be given. So that is what distributive justice is all about. Now, in this connection, there is a person whose name we need to discuss is called Ronald Dworkin. So Ronald Dworkin was a person who developed the idea of luck egalitarianism in a very broader way. He distinguished between the outcomes as a result of two different kinds of luck. One is called conscious option or option luck. Another is called brute luck. Now, what is this option luck and what is this brute luck? Option luck is basically a luck which is based on the choice of the individual. It's like a fair gamble where the person know that why you are choosing it, so that is what is called as option luck. And when you have an option for choosing your own luck, for example, when you have passed out your class 10 examination, probably you have a option to choose your destiny. Maybe you know that if you want to become a doctor, you need to study science, and to become a lawyer, you need a lawyer, or become a specialist or master in a particular subject of arts, you need to study higher secondary or your further courses in arts and humanities. So that option was available to you. You have chosen to become a doctor, and that's why you have adopted science. But at the end, if you cannot clear the entrance examination for doctor, you cannot blame your luck, because that option was already there in front of you. You could have also choose arts and become another person. You could have choose your own destiny. So that is what we call as option luck. And what is brute luck? So brute luck is something which is not in your hands. It is not your choice. It happens due to your bad luck. Maybe, for example, your misfortune, your genetic kind of makeups, so something which is not related to you, but it just happened to your life. Maybe by color, maybe your parents, the body tone that your father, your mother has, you have a different body tone. It just happened. It's a biological kind of a thing, right? So that is what we call as brute luck. So what Ronald Dworkin said that, therefore, people do not have control over the brute luck, but they do have control over option luck. So in an egalitarian kind of a society, or in a luck egalitarian, so what does the egalitarian expect? The luck egalitarian expect that the state and the public institutions, they have the responsibility to come up with corrective measures. This is very important, that the state and public institution, they have the responsibility to come up with corrective measures to the consequences of brute luck. So the consequences a person face due to the brute luck, for example, a farmer, he has started doing a very new crop in his paddy field, and suddenly there was a flood. He did not expect a flood, but it happened. So that consequences what happened in his life, we very brutally by his luck, by his misfortune, not by himself. So in that connection, the government, the responsibility of the government, the state, the public institution was to compensate the loss that was made in the life of that farmer. Maybe the loan that he has taken need to be subsidized. Maybe the government need to provide some rehabilitation scheme to him. So these are what is luck egalitarianism is all about. So next one is called political egalitarianism. Political egalitarianism basically is a egalitarianism which believes that every single member of a society need to be considered as equal in terms of political power and influence. What does it mean? It means that in a political egalitarian kind of a concept, every single individual would get equal amount of representation, equal amount of respect within the political regime. They would get equal opportunity to compete for political power. For example, if you contest for an election as a candidate, and if you want to vote for a particular candidate, if you want to participate in the election process being as a member of a political party, so that is what political egalitarianism is. Nobody can compel you to choose your own options. It is your own option that you have to choose by yourself. So that is what political egalitarianism is. So this political egalitarianism is also considered as a founding principle of most of the democracies, whether it is parliamentary or whether it is federal, whether it is constitutional monarchy kind of a democracy, in all different kinds of democracies, this political egalitarianism is considered as very important. What does it mean? That every individual is politically equal and important. The next one is called religious egalitarianism. Religious egalitarianism is very interesting and sounds very interesting because it is a kind of egalitarianism which believes that every individual is equal in front of God. So God cannot discriminate people. No God will consider any single individual as his own favorite. So there is no question of favorite among in front of God. So religiously, the religion do not discriminate people. So when it consider every single person as equal or of equal worth, then it is called as religious egalitarianism. The next one is called economic egalitarianism. Economic egalitarianism is a egalitarianism which believes that every single individual in a society is equal in terms of economic power, wealth and contribution. So in terms of economic power, wealth and contribution, when every single individual has been considered as equal, then that kind of a egalitarianism has been considered as economic egalitarianism. And this economic egalitarianism is also a very important principle of socialism. So these are the different types of egalitarianism that we tend to understand. Oh, okay, there is another one left, that is called liberal egalitarianism. Now what is liberal egalitarianism? The idea of liberal egalitarianism basically believes two things. On one hand, it believes on the principle of moral individualism. Now what is individualism? Individualism basically means giving importance to individuals. So when individuals' rights, their liberty has been given more importance, so that political thought has been known as individualism. And moral individualism is something which connects with the idea of what is best for individual. What best is deserved by an individual. So that is what moral individualism is. So moral individualism is in one hand stand by liberal egalitarianism. For example, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom from discrimination on the basis of gender, sexuality or race, the right to vote and to be voted for, the right to stand as an equal of others before the law, etc. So these are the one way of looking at liberal egalitarianism, where you want to provide equal individual liberty to single individual being as a for their own better life. So the question of morality comes up with the question of value, because you want to give maximum amount of benefits, pleasure to the people as an individual. On the other hand, liberal egalitarianism also talks about the idea of advocacy of equal consideration in socio-economic matters. It means that you want to provide equal consideration to individual on the socio-economic matters. For example, distribution of resources and opportunity. That every single individual within a particular social framework, within an economic framework, must get the equal right or equal consideration for the enjoyment of the distribution of resources of the country. So therefore, in this connection, one person is very important to quote. He is John Rawls. So in his theory of justice, so he has wrote a masterpiece called Theory of Justice. In his theory of justice, John Rawls, he has talked about that the theory of justice, where he talked that how do we eradicate the inequalities. He said that unless and until we provide welfare to the worst off, we cannot talk about egalitarianism. So he said that there must be a minimum welfare level to be given to the worst of people in a society, and if it is not given, the society cannot be considered as egalitarian. So those people who are disadvantageous, who are considered to be worst off, they need to be taken care of. So that is what liberal egalitarianism gives importance to. So these are the types of egalitarianism. So we have talked about today about the meaning of egalitarianism. We consider certain definitions of egalitarianism. We talked about the characteristics of egalitarianism, and we also talk about certain types of egalitarianism. So these are a list of other readings that you should follow. The link has been given. Please cite to them, read them, and have better understanding of the concept. So you are watching to e-Politica. Do subscribe, share the channel among your friends, colleagues, and students. And for any query, please feel free to write me at gogoi.susang@gmail.com. With that, I'm signing off today. Stay home, stay safe. Jai Hind.